Welcome to Seymour's World. We're filming here live in Honolulu, Hawaii at the Think Tech Studios. For those of you who anticipated that we were going to have Dan Foxman from Chiang Mai in Thailand talking about the Black Rice Project, unfortunately he could not join us today. He had a motorcycle accident and he's in the hospital. So we've asked a very, very good friend of mine, Brian Goldstein, to come to our studio and sit with us and talk about high technology. I want to tell you a little bit about Brian. He's been a very good friend of mine for many, many years and probably one of the most accomplished individuals I've seen in the high-tech industry. I'm going to give you a little bit of his background and then we'll talk to Brian directly. As a seasoned executive with a proven track record in growing technology-based organizations with over 25 years of experience in senior management, business development, sales and marketing, he's been in the electric vehicle business, clean technology, enterprise software, data warehousing, business intelligence, consumer internet, medical software, biotechnology industries. Brian, I have to ask you, is there anything you haven't been in over all these years?
Well, there's plenty of technologies that I haven't been involved with, but I think it's been one of the more varied careers that I've seen amongst my friends.
I am fascinated, Brian, that you have developed such expertise here in Hawaii. So many people know you. All the people that I know in the RFID business from my business background, all the people that know you from the Better Place, if I may use their name, because you were very involved in that company. Tell us a little bit first. Let's go back to how you came to Hawaii.
Oh, well, my wife is from Hawaii, and when we had our first child, we were thinking about where we wanted to raise our family. And at the time, we were living in Silicon Valley. I'd just shut down a company that we had raised a few $1 million in venture capital. This was back in 2001 when the whole .com implosion occurred. And at the time, Silicon Valley was not a very interesting place to be. It was really very down. And so we thought, why not Hawaii? My wife loved growing up here. Her parents live here, so we decided to move here. So I got involved in the technology community here and helped co-found a medical technology company and got involved in biotechnology and electric vehicles and software development. And so it's been really interesting.
Well, one of the companies that you were involved with was a client of mine, which was Atlanta Cyberspace. And that was an amazing technology because I was fascinated by virtual reality. The idea of putting on something on your head and being able to feel like you're somewhere else in the world, even in a desert or on a mountaintop.
Yeah.
And this was a technology that was well before its time, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a really interesting technology. What they've essentially done is take video game technology and use it for combat training for infantry soldiers. So you have simulators for every type of combat vehicle, whether it's a tank, an armored personnel carrier, a helicopter, an airplane, but you haven't had simulators for ground infantry combat. So you essentially provide that capability with technology that is virtual reality for teams of infantry, essentially working inside a video game with devices that cover the face with full weapons that weigh and are exactly the type of feel of the actual M16s or other weapons that infantry control, and they actually stand and look around and they're in this virtual world and able to do some really interesting training.
I think the important part for our Hawaii business people is to believe that this can be done in Hawaii, that you can have startups in Hawaii, that you can have companies that are in virtual reality or other type of startup high-tech companies that work. You were with Oracle as well, weren't you?
Well, I started my technology career at Oracle. And back when they were a small billion-dollar company. And after working there for a few years, I decided I wanted to do a startup. So I joined a company called Brio Software as their first salesperson, maybe their 10th employee. And that was a really fun ride. It was about 5 years. We grew the company to about 700 people, took it public. I was one of 2 executives invited to the trading floor when the company started first trading. And then after that, I decided to start a company. So with a partner, we started a consumer technology company that was turned out to be well before its time. It turns out that the technology we were working on about 10 years ago is coming to fruition today. I'm just starting to see it actually implemented in the market today, 10 years later.
Well, I'm smiling as you say that because, as a lot of our viewers know, I was in the RFID business. And in the radio frequency identification business, we started with dogs and cats. If you have a microchip, I've always said this to anybody who says, "Oh, I know your technology," where we put the microchips into the small animals, dogs and cats, and everywhere in Hawaii, if there's a dog or a cat that has a microchip in it for ID, that's one of mine. And I always say to people, "You've paid for a shoelace. Thank you very much." But we were ahead of our time as well. And now the RFID technology, very similar to what you're saying, where timing is such a key issue in technology. In the RFID business today, it's grown to a humongous number where we're talking about, I think this year, 1.8 billion RFID tags are being produced just for the hotel industry alone because they want contactless keys. They want to be able to have information technology on a tag that was not readily available with a key that had to be inserted into the door.
Well, it just came out yesterday, that Starwood is testing using smartphones and
Correct.
Bluetooth technology to open hotel room doors. Yeah, you can't understate the importance of timing in any industry, especially when you're trying to do relatively early stage company. One of my most recent ventures was with Better Place, a company that raised $750 million in private capital for the deployment, with the goal of mass deployment of electric vehicles. And that company ended up failing. And just a few weeks ago, I saw that Renault, the global automotive manufacturer that has invested over $1 billion in electric cars, just shut down their largest production line of their full battery electric vehicle. So, electric cars are going to grow, but they're not growing the market as fast. The market is not growing as fast as many people had hoped.
Let's look at that industry. As you know, I'm quite involved in China. And in China today, every motorbike that's being made is made with EV on it. Mm-hmm. Every taxi that's being made, the government has issued a decree, and in China, when a decree is issued, it will happen. Mm-hmm. They've issued a decree that all taxis must be EV taxis.
Yes.
Is it our government regulations that make it so difficult for new types of technology to move forward as quickly in China? Where do you see the reason that the United States is behind when it comes to technology getting to market?
Well, I don't think with respect to electric vehicles, it's a matter of the technology getting to market. I think the technology is here. Electric cars work really well. I mean, I've been driving a Nissan Leaf for going on 3 years now, and it's got almost 25,000 miles on it, and it's been a great vehicle. I think one of the biggest impacts has been the dramatic rise of oil production here in the United States and the stabilization of oil prices, because what consumer research has shown is that the vast majority of Americans will not pay a premium for a plug-in electric vehicle. And that was one of the goals of Better Place, was to solve that issue, was to sell cars that cost less than gas cars that were as convenient as gas cars. And that, Better Place failed. And there are plenty of electric cars available, but they are a premium. They cost more to purchase, they cost less to operate.
Right. As you know, I went to Israel to look at Better Place and to talk with them, and I understood that their theory behind the electric vehicle market was not necessarily the system that they had planned for the U.S. market. It was basically changing the battery out, stations that the battery would be changed out rather than charging stations. Isn't that correct? Wasn't that their original
Yeah, the
theory?
business model behind Better Place was swapping to essentially separate the battery from the car, to allow the purchaser of a car to pay for the vehicle and not have to pay for the battery. Because the battery is the single most expensive component of an electric car, frequently costing 30% or more of the total vehicle cost. So if you could, for example, if you could buy a Nissan Leaf and not have to pay for the battery, that car would probably be well under $20,000, probably around $15,000. So if you could buy the car and lease the battery, which was kind of the Better Place model, now you're talking an electric car that's well more affordable than the gas equivalent. But as it is, a Nissan Leaf is in the high 20s, low 30s, and the gas equivalent is maybe $18,000-$20,000.
Do you feel, with your experience in EV vehicles, that swapping batteries is truly the best way to go?
I don't think that concept will go. It was too big a failure. Too much money was lost. It's possible well in the future. I think the market is moving towards the deployment of electric vehicle charging stations. It's an industry that I've been in for over 5 years now. And helped to deploy the largest network of electric car charging stations in the state of Hawaii. And so you're going to see more electric vehicle charging stations, both level 2, which are 240 volt, and level 3, which are 480 volt, which can charge a vehicle in about 20 minutes, empty to full in about 20 minutes. You'll see more of those around Hawaii and on the mainland. Tesla has done an amazing job. They are building a network of supercharging stations across the country. I just looked at their supercharging map the other day, and it's amazing what they've done. They have almost the entire country covered, where you can travel from one coast to the other driving an electric vehicle. But only Teslas can use those charging stations. So
Right.
That's one of the challenges.
So where are the big three? Where is GM? Where is Ford? Where is Chrysler? Where are these guys going in the EV business?
General Motors is bringing primarily they're taking a dual approach. They have the full zero-emission electric vehicle, the Chevy Spark, which is a small city car that's coming to market this year. They've had the Chevy Volt, which is a hybrid type plug-in, and they now have a Cadillac coming out in a couple of months. Porsche has a plug-in. BMW hasn't announced a plug-in yet. Well, they do have, no, I'm sorry, no, wait a second, the BMW i3, which I'm interested in getting. It's a beautiful car. Another city car that's full electric coming out this year. The i8 is coming out this year. So there's Ford has a number of plug-in electric vehicles. Chrysler has really been absent in the plug-in space. Nissan is very active. So you're going to have probably well over 20 models to choose from in the U.S. market this year.
And of course, when you have that many models and you're going to have competition, that should drive the price down, hopefully to where it becomes more affordable for the average consumer.
Yeah.
Thus reducing the need for oil. And
Yeah, as the battery technology is improving 6 to 8% a year. It's chemistry. Every year or so, you hear about this new magic technology when it comes to batteries, and those things are just not real. Not when it comes to production, commercial availability.
well,
So-
I want to discuss that with you in a few minutes because, as you know, I was very involved with a scientist and engineer who had a ceramic battery technology, and we did a lot of work in China on that. And I will fill you in as well as our viewers on what's happening with that technology.
interested to hear about
We're
that.
going to take a break. We're with Brian Goldstein at Seymour's World. We'll be back in a minute. Thank you.
I'm Hong Jiang, host for Asia in Review on Tuesdays.
And I'm David Day, host for Asian Review on Thursdays. Both of us broadcast our respective shows at 4 p.m.
And my topics tend to deal with questions related to environment, culture, history, and sometimes human rights.
And my shows tend to be on international business, foreign policy, geopolitics, and national security. And you can watch our shows live on the ThinkTech website at thinktechhawaii.com.
And you can also watch us on YouTube or Olalo.
So come join us on Thursdays at 4 p.m. I'm David Day.
And on Tuesdays at 4 p.m., I'm Hong Jiang.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Thank you. Welcome back to Seymour's World. We're with Brian Goldstein, probably one of the most experienced individuals in Hawaii when it comes to high technology. And Brian, we ended the last segment on a capacitor that I got involved with. It's a inventor named Mustafa Simantek. Mustafa is based out of Las Vegas, and we went over there to look at his technology, and he had a hockey puck. And that hockey puck powered an automobile. And the hockey puck itself was made out of ceramic, and the ceramic capacitors held enough energy, obviously, to be able to power the vehicle. Just to give our viewers a little bit of insight as to the future, and the future may involve many different types of capacitors, as we're talking about lithium-ion additives and so on and so forth. The ceramic capacitor that he is working with is now in production. It is in 1,000 vehicles in China, and they're working with it. It's getting about 600 miles to a charge. And it seems to be working very well. There's a lot of issues when it comes to government regulations for leakage and that kind of stuff that we don't have here in the U.S. They're just doing the testing. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. We will see dramatic increases in EV charging, the ability to charge a vehicle or anything very, very soon as the technology gets better. You agree?
Yeah, you'll see a steady improvement in the range of electric vehicles, as well as decreasing costs for the batteries. So you can expect, given the rate of change of 6 to 8% a year, that in the next 10 years, the cost of batteries will come down by half. And when that happens, you're going to see more and more affordable electric cars.
Brian, thank you. You're very well known as the guy to go to when you want to do a startup here in Hawaii. You've got a great consult. Oh no, you have an excellent consulting company. Your reputation is excellent. Listen, we've all failed. I have admitted my failures to our audience, and you've admitted yours. You know, with better place and so on and so forth. The issue here in Hawaii is, can startups work in Hawaii? Is there room for startups? You as a consultant, if somebody said, I have an idea and I want to start up this company, would you say to them, don't do it here, go to the mainland? Or would you say, do it here in Hawaii?
Well, I wouldn't suggest someone just immediately move to the mainland. I think there are a number of startups, companies that have succeeded. It really depends on the type of technology that you have, the type of market you're looking for, and most importantly, the skills of the people that you need. Now, it used to be that you had to hire engineers here. Well, now with the various types of technology available for distributed work, whether it's Skype or other types of technology like GoToMeeting or so on, you can have your team located anywhere around the world. You can have developers in Belarus and Russia and India, and you can have your management team spread across the mainland. I mean, it can be challenging doing meetings. I mean, I can tell you that with my experience with Better Place, where Israel is on 13 time zones away, scheduling meetings was challenging. And there were a number of times where I was getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning to do a conference call. But absolutely, you can do startups in Hawaii. I think really it's the type of market. It really is, what is the market that you're trying to go after? Because sometimes people sort of see an opportunity in Hawaii that really may not exist elsewhere. And then sometimes the market, the total available market, may not be sufficient to really justify a significant investment.
In Hawaii, to this stage, we have some groups that are funding small startup companies, Blue Planet and so on and so forth. I often believe that you can develop a business here in Hawaii. I say that Hawaii is just as good as anywhere else. We don't have the necessary pool of talent that you have in some of the other places in the world. But rather than go to Russia, where I believe they have the best hackers in the world, and they can hack almost anything there, they can also copy everything there, the same as in China. I think we're safer here doing it.
Oh, certainly when you outsource your development, there's a number of risks. There's challenges with respect to product and project management, as well as security. I'm not saying that that is a requirement. I'm just saying that you can have your team not all co-located and still be successful. There's certainly, I mean, I've been living in Hawaii for a dozen years now, and there's no question that I think you can be successful building a company here.
And for all of you viewers who have asked me so many times about opening up a company here in Hawaii, can you find the right engineers? Can you find the right people, especially in high technology? I've always said, yes, you can. And Brian, of course, in his consulting company, is probably the right guy to talk to if you do have an idea and something that you want to promote and market, whether it's here or whether it's overseas or whether it's around the world. I think your experience has proven that you can help. But weren't you in some fish farm business at one time or another? Tell us about that. That was interesting.
Yeah, I was contacted by a local investor here in Hawaii. I had recently moved here, and one of his portfolio companies was distressed. He needed someone to turn it around. And I'd never turned around a company before, but I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And we thought it might take 1 to 2 years. Well, it ended up taking us 5 years. But we grew the company from about 5 people to almost 30, from no customers to customers in 9 countries, located mainly in Southeast Asia. And we ended up selling the company to one of our largest customers, a multi-billion-dollar Indonesian conglomerate. It was a good outcome for the investors, certainly better than the outcome they would have seen had we not been successful in turning the company around. And this was a company that we ended up developing a world-class, actually world-recognized technology for shrimp improvements. We were selling live breeding shrimp to shrimp hatcheries in Asia. And we were selling them for $70 a pair, delivered live in Jakarta or Hanoi or Bangkok, amongst several other countries. And it was really interesting. I'll never do a aquaculture company again. It was a lot of fun. And some really, really neat people, just an industry filled with passionate people, which was really fun. And it was a great experience. And when I was doing it, I knew that this was the only aquaculture company I was ever going to be involved with.
You know, we talk about passion, and I could just tell as you were talking about it that it was a very passionate time in your business experience. You obviously loved doing it while you were doing it.
It was, I've been involved in various kinds of technology, generally software, some hardware. And this was the first time that I was involved with breeding, genetic technology. So we recruited a world-class geneticist to our team, world-class scientists, developed joint ventures in Asia with scientific institutions like the Oceanic Institute. And it was just, it was really interesting, just fascinating, dealing with live animals as opposed to software code. And they're much less predictable than developers.
I bet.
The animals that were.
I think, Brian, one of the ideas that passion is part of business really is something that people have to realize. If you're passionate about your business, and I'm not talking about passionate about making money, but passionate about the business itself, you will find that it's a lot more fun to do that work. You'll get up at 3 o'clock in the morning when you have to, because it's what you are enjoying doing at that moment. And I find for myself, even though I'm, quote, semi-retired, I still love helping companies around the world do what they have to do when they ask me to. I just received a call the other day from a client in Dallas, Texas, who said, can you help us do this and that? And there was no hesitation in my voice whatsoever. When do you want me to come there? It was as simple as that. Because when you're passionate about doing something in your life, it really does give you a thrill. And that's what I found. What are you passionate about now? Obviously, your consulting contract is finished with OpConnect. That's your latest business, and you're finished with them. What are your plans?
Well, I continue to be interested in the technology industry and the early stage companies. That's where I have my most fun and been very successful in helping to grow companies. I'm actually very interested in the digital advertising industry.
Oh.
Digital outdoor advertising, that's something I'm looking at right now. I'm going to be looking at opportunities in Hawaii primarily, in the small business community.
Oh, that's wonderful. I think the idea of digital advertising is interesting. You know, we've just had this big thing about the buses here in Hawaii, and should we allow advertising on the buses? And almost every major city we go to in the world, advertising on buses are revenue. Some people don't like it, some people like it. What's your opinion?
I totally agree with the billboard ban. And Outdoor Circle's stance with respect to billboards and large signage and roadside signage. I feel that advertising on buses, it's okay. I mean, these vehicles are moving. I mean, you have buses that have advertising on them. If you own your own vehicle, you can put whatever you want. I mean, that's called free speech. I can put anything I want on my vehicle. So, like Polynesian Cultural Center has buses, and they have large wraps. And if it can help the bus keep fares down, improve service by simply putting wraps on some of their buses, why not?
What about digital wraps?
Well, you can't do a digital wrap on the outside of a bus, but you can certainly do digital screens inside of them. There's a company that has signage inside the buses. There's no limitations once you're inside a building or a vehicle. But you have a lot more of the digital outdoor advertising that takes place in the mainland than you have here in Hawaii.
For those of you who are viewing this from the mainland, Hawaii has a law that doesn't allow any billboard advertising whatsoever. So our landscape is free from any signage on the outside except for signage on a building. A matter of fact, some of our business people feel that it's a hindrance to their business because they're not able to get the proper signage. I, for one, when I had the New York Deli down in Discovery Bay, we were allowed a sign that was 6 feet wide by 1 foot letters, and that had to spell out New York Deli. Obviously, that couldn't give us much signage for what we wanted, but in due respect to the Outdoor Circle, it really does keep Hawaii's landscape beautiful. So for us, that has become a very, very, it's a good way to run this state, is to have it nice and clean without having all the billboards
It
up
would
there.
be horrible if we allowed roadside signs and billboards. Sometimes for business people it can be a little challenging. They want a larger sign, and there are ways around it. You see around town. But I think taxis and buses, they should allow wraps.
I want to talk about the business climate in Hawaii after the break, Brian. I feel, and I've always felt, because I'm an optimist, I know there's clouds in the sky, but I see a lot of blue sky. And I feel that the business climate in Hawaii is actually very good, although we keep getting negative ratings for doing business in Hawaii. So after the break, if you don't mind, maybe we could get into that.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. We're at Seymour's World in Honolulu with Brian Goldstein. Thank you.
We want to thank our underwriters. Hawaiian Electric Company and its affiliates Maui Electric on Maui and Hawaii Electric Light Company on Hawaii Island are deeply committed to the communities they serve. Galen Ho is a senior executive of BAE Systems, a global defense, security, and aerospace company. The High-Tech Development Corporation, the state's leading technology agency, attached to the Department of Business, Economic Development, and Tourism. Castle and Cook Hawaii, with a time-honored legacy that spans more than 160 years and revolves around its mission of investing in Hawaii, creating communities, and providing for the needs of our state. Hawaii Gas, formerly the Gas Company, a proponent of the Liquefied Natural Gas Initiative, helping Hawaii achieve its transition to clean energy and a better energy future. Collateral Analytics, a Hawaii-based tech company empowering the real estate industry with greater and faster access to the tools and data they need to make better informed property investment decisions. I'm Nicole Horry. Thanks so much for joining us on Think Tech. I'm Maria Kashem. See you next time.
Welcome back to Seymour's World at Think Tech Hawaii. We're with Brian Goldstein, a wonderful, wonderful business consultant in the high-tech energy field. And I wanted to bring up the business climate in Hawaii with you, Brian, because I've had a lot of people that I talk to that say, oh, this climate is terrible here, and I happen to think that the business climate is good in Hawaii. We are not just a tourist-oriented state. There's a lot of things that can be done in Hawaii. And your experience, especially in the high-tech industry, which is as far as you can get from the tourist industry itself. You know, you're not in agriculture that feeds the tourist industry or food or the food industry.
Yeah.
I would like to know what your thoughts are. Can Hawaii be a hotbed, not just a place for somebody to open up a business, but can we look at Hawaii becoming a business state rather than just a tourist state?
Well, there's a lot of business that's done in Hawaii, and I think it's not a bad place to start a company. I mean, there are certainly some states where it's a lot easier, with lower taxes and unemployment taxes and so on. I mean, there are some challenges in that arena, but there's a lot of business that's done here that's not related to tourism, and I think it's not a bad place to start a high technology company because you can attract and retain some really good people, especially Kama'aina who are living on the mainland that want to come back. One of the challenges can be retaining people who don't have connections to Hawaii who move here to take work. And I think we've all seen that where people don't stick. But actually, one of the, I think, real benefits to being here is we're insulated from some of the large swings that you see in the market in, say, California or Texas or Boston or elsewhere, where you see just really large swings of the market, whether it's the real estate market or the stock market or the technology industry, for example. So because we're distant, we're insulated from some of those large swings, it's a little bit more stable. So I think it's a fine place to start a company. And actually starting a company here isn't very hard at all. Part of the challenge can be growing it if you don't have the real experienced people as part of the team who know how to grow a company and how to find a market and tailor the product to the market.
But isn't that something that you can help companies with? I mean, in your firm, as a business consultant, it's not just the high-tech side that you help them with. You help them with their financing. You help them with how to motivate employees. You help them with how to grow a business, don't you?
Yeah, the things I like to focus on are really on the strategic and business side of the organizations, which is really helping to make sure that you're targeting, you've defined your market properly, that you've targeted your products to that market well, and that you get some early customers and customer buy-in and customer feedback, because there is no substitute to getting feedback from your customers on how you can improve your product or service. I do enjoy the fundraising side as well, a fair amount of experience in that side, both targeting local as well as mainland, as well as global investors. So those are the kinds of things that I like to do.
In retrospect, after all the businesses that you've been in and everything that you have done, what has been your most fun experience? Don't tell me the aquaculture. I want to know what you really, really enjoy doing the most.
It might be because it's one of the more recent, was the work at Better Place. The company didn't succeed, but we went down trying to change the world. And it was with a huge, bold vision that attracted a huge amount of capital, $750 million in private capital. Large organizations like HSBC invested hundreds of millions of dollars. We attracted, in our peak, the company attracted the most brilliant team. And it was amazing to work with such talented and motivated people who were all working on a mission. And the mission was to drive electric, to drive the world towards driving electric. And it's really just a tremendous experience to be involved in such a mission-driven company that had good resources, in a exploding market. I mean, it was really, really fun. I wish the company had succeeded. I wish the company had been better managed at the executive level. There was a lot of mismanagement of funds. But the market changed. The market changed pretty dramatically in the time that I was there for about 5 years.
Is that happening often? Do you see that because of technology, because of communications, because of what's happening in the world today? Are the plans for a much shorter period of time for a company?
Yes, yes. I think it's key. I think one of the issues that Better Place faced was it was a massive infrastructure play that had a long run to get infrastructure in the ground. There's a lot of complexities to the business model, which made it incredibly risky. And I think one of the lessons learned from that is you need to get whatever your product is, an early version of it, to the market and iterate it over and over. And that's why, for example, software as a service, cloud-based computing is accelerating so quickly because you can constantly update. You can be updating your cloud-based software service or app weekly or monthly, where imagine just a few years ago when you would have to send CD-ROMs out or DVDs every time you wanted to update your software. You couldn't change it monthly. So the internet technology that enables rapid change means that you need to move quickly and get that incredibly important customer feedback as fast as possible.
I can attest to that with one of my own clients, Exmovir, which is a client that makes a watch that takes your blood pressure and your temperature. It's GPS and it's a telephone all in one. And obviously it's still a watch, so it has a small face to it. But every week we send out to the 16,000 people that have bought the watches so far to date, they get updates every single week. And they can monitor their blood pressure and monitor their heart rate online. They can decide when they want to take their blood pressure, if it's every 20 seconds or every minute or every 2 hours, whatever it happens to be. That technology.
A watch can take blood pressure?
Oh yes, it can. It's got a bladder on the inside of it.
Really?
It's absolutely fascinating. There's another company, I don't know if you're into this or not, but I hope some of you are, that will be a watch that has a virtual reality screen that goes on your wrist. So the watch basically is on the inside of your wrist, and the screen will be here, and you'll be able to see it on a much larger platform because it's a VR screen on your wrist. This is all coming for old guys like me. I don't know when it's going to be coming in time for me to use it, but I'm just fascinated by how fast the technology is growing. It's leaps and bounds compared to the way it used to be. As you said, I think your example was excellent. The idea of having to send out CD-ROMs, versus today just pressing a button and it's there the next moment. We do a lot of our interviews, we do by Skype. And we did a live Skype interview 2 weeks ago from Fort Lauderdale with a ex-trainer for the UH football team. And it was fabulous. We had hundreds of comments on it.
Yeah, the video conferencing technology, in addition to Skype, GoToMeeting, and WebEx, just on your iPad, or I've been able to participate in video calls, conference calls on my iPhone, sitting in my car, and sharing presentations, sharing PowerPoint slides and other documents. And so it really, this is just, I was amazed at the quality of it. And this is, I think, something that has really assisted remote locations like Hawaii. We are the most geographically remote islands in the world. So, doing business here can be really improved with these types of technologies.
Well, just as an example of an app that goes against all that. We have a client who has an app that basically is to help people avoid texting while they're driving. So here we had something that was terrific, which is texting, but we know that texting while driving is not very good to do. So they have an app that avoids texting while driving. So isn't that amazing? We're trying to somehow dissuade the technology from being used at one point or another.
I'll look forward to using that on my children's phones.
Yes, your children's phone for sure.
God help us have driver's licenses.
We will be back with Brian Goldstein. We're going to talk about clean energy, something that I'm very, very close to. I really want to see this as a major focus for the state of Hawaii. So we'll be back in 1 minute with Brian Goldstein at Seymour's World Think Tech Hawaii.
Aloha, I'm Maria Kashem of Think Tech Hawaii, and I want to tell you about our Think Tech talk shows. If you didn't know it, ThinkTech streams video and audio for all of its shows live on the internet from 2 to 5 p.m. every weekday afternoon, and we replay them all night long on Ustream.tv. Visit ThinkTechHawaii.com for our live stream and YouTube links. Raise your awareness on ThinkTech. I'm Maria Kashem, and I'll see you there.
Aloha, I'm Jay Fidel of ThinkTech. We have some news for you. In addition to our ThinkTech TV show and our Asia in Review show on Olelo 54, as of January 1st, we're adding Community Matters to play also 2 hours a week. Check out thinktechhawaii.com for the specific times of each of these shows. We hope you enjoy all three. Mahalo, I'm Jay Fidel.
Well, welcome back to Seymour's World at Think Tech Hawaii. We're with Brian Goldstein, the guru of high technology here in Hawaii, as far as I'm concerned. Oh, no, I really believe you have tremendous experience about it. One aspect of high technology that I would like to see really move forward is clean technology. And I find that we're not accentuating it enough, Brian. What can we do better? Or where are we at? Let's start from where we're at and then what we can do better.
Well, we have the Hawaii Clean Energy Initiative, which has a goal of 70% clean energy by 2030. And the first milestone that we needed to hit was HECO generating about 15% of their energy through clean energy by 2015. They hit that 2 years early, primarily with the through the wide deployment of rooftop solar, a lot of residential, a fair amount of commercial. And that has been dramatically slowed recently by recent changes in the tax department, which has reduced the amount of tax credits available to residential homeowners, as well as the utility, which is significantly slowed the permitting process for interconnection to the grid, which I think is a mistake. I think we need to continue to push on the accelerator pedal to get the rapid expansion of rooftops, not just rooftop solar, but grid scale solar, and we're starting to see some projects that which are moving forward in that way, as well as wind. The biggest thing that we can do in moving towards improved clean energy is getting the cable between the islands, which will allow grid interconnections between the various islands. First would be to Maui.
Is the cable going to happen between Molokai and Honolulu?
Well, I certainly hope so. I mean, it's probably $1 billion plus. There's a fair amount that has been done already with doing studies. I'm afraid that after Senator Inouye passed, I think some of our juice in Congress has been reduced with respect to being able to get Department of Energy funding for these types of projects, because there's no way that we can afford it simply by increasing fees on ratepayers.
But we have Larry Ellison. And Mr. Ellison, if you're listening to this show, I'll make sure you get a copy. We need your money here in Hawaii. And I know that you're thinking of putting on that, what is that water, it's something.
America's Cup.
Yes, the America's Cup, and I'm sure that's going to cost you $1 billion. We only need $1 billion for underwater cable, which is going to help all of Hawaii. So please consider that. Go ahead. Go ahead, Brian.
No, that's the key. I mean, we have small grids on each island, which have stability challenges. They're old, they're aging. We're trying, and the utility is, by its nature, risk averse and relatively slow moving. And I have a lot of friends that work at the utility, so I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't say directly to them.
I have a PV system on my house.
As do I.
And yes, and our bill was an average $400 a month. It's now $17 a month. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that is a pretty good investment in a few years.
Yeah, I mean, we put solar on our house, and I drive an electric car, and so essentially I drive on sun juice. I couldn't tell you what the price of a gallon of gasoline is.
That's amazing.
I don't even look at it anymore.
I think that the clean energy initiatives here in Hawaii, we need the state government to make sure that our energy companies stop putting up those roadblocks and make it easier for people to get the PV systems. And I think the PV companies have to get back to the unionized format they had before, and maybe ask the government to get the tax incentives back. There's no reason in a state like Hawaii that not every house should have a PV system on it.
Oh, I agree. I think one of the challenges also is you have an overworked and understaffed Public Utilities Commission. I think the chair, Mina Morita, is doing an amazing job, but they have way too much work for the amount of resources that they have. And they've asked for more funding each year. And I think that would go a long way to speeding up a lot of the dockets that will help move clean energy forward.
Well, Neil, you're a friend of mine. I'm talking to Neil Abercrombie, our governor. I understand you have $840 million in your back pocket right now. So we would appreciate very much if we could help this department, right?
You know, the PUC definitely needs additional resources.
We do need it. And I think clean energy should be, I'm not saying number one. I agree we need to have a lot of initiatives for our education, for a lot of the other areas that we have in our state. But clean energy should be up there. I think it really has to be one of our major plays.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean, we continue to be the most dependent state in the country on liquid fossil fuels, imported oil, and we will be for the foreseeable future. We have a relatively short supply of inventory on the islands, and so, you know, I like to say that, and our water system is completely electricity dependent for moving water around the island. So God forbid some sort of tragedy were to happen that would prevent the importation of oil. We're less than a month away from the Stone Age in this state.
I agree. Well, let's talk about something that you and I have direct control over, and that is your tennis game. What is happening with your tennis game, Brian? Because the last few sets we have played, I've seen a little improvement, but we have a long way to go. So I'm hoping that that's part of your plan now, to get some tennis into your schedule.
You know, I think that's a great idea.
Okay, good. I want to thank Brian Goldstein for coming in here today. He was
on short notice.
On very short notice. I have to say thank you very much, because Dan is sitting in a hospital in Chiang Mai, gritting his teeth. He was dying to talk about black rice. It's a super nutrient. It's going to be a antioxidant a meal replacement bar. It'll be an additive to milkshakes. It really will be something else for the marketplace. And we will have him on, I think, in March, because our schedule is already filled for the rest of February. Next week, I want you to tune in if you can. We have Bernard Offen, who is a Holocaust survivor. He was 12 years old in Auschwitz. We took a personal tour of his unfortunately, his bunk where he was. And his story is undeniably one of the most interesting stories of the Holocaust, because it's a personal story. It's his story. And he has helped me a lot over the last few years. We developed a DVD video that we give to the schools here in Hawaii. We both speak around the world, and I find that hearing a story from the person who was there is a lot better than reading a book or seeing it on TV. So when you hear Bernard Offen talk next week about his Holocaust experiences, you will be amazed. I look forward to you tuning in next week. Again, thank you, Brian, for joining us. It was a wonderful hour. It went very quick as far as I'm concerned. And I hope you'll come on again. If anybody wants to talk to you or get hold of you, they could reach us here, and then we will relay the message over to you.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you very much from Seymour's World at Think Tech Hawaii.